Our planet is home to many strange discoveries. There is one special place on Earth that holds a considerably high amount of those. This is a map of Australia, the smallest continent with one of the largest countries. Australia is the seventh continent and is also the world's oldest, flattest, and driest inhabited region. The breathtakingly gorgeous continent is a vibrant mix of varied geography, distinct climate, and a vast and adventurous history. The center section of Australia is mostly desert. However, there are rich green rainforests in the northeast and mountain ranges in the southeast. The British seized the eastern half of the continent in the 1770s, while indigenous Australians arrived almost 65,000 years ago. Because the massive continent is cut off from the rest of the planet, it is also known as the island continent. Australia, officially the Commonwealth of Australia, also known as Sahel Australia, Sahel Land, Meganesia, Papuland and Greater Australia. It is a sovereign country comprising Australia's mainland, Tasmania, New Guinea, the Aru Islands, the Ashmore and Cartier Islands, and nearly all of the Coral Sea Islands are also part of the continent. The fascinating continent is home to ancient cultures, a diverse range of flora and fauna, and some of the world's most stunning natural and archaeological wonders. Over the years, scientists have discovered some incredible and terrible things on the Australian continent. Join us as we discover and learn more about Australia, the home of the kangaroos and koalas. Number 10. The Merry Man. Merry Man, also known as Stewart's Giant, is a contemporary hieroglyph. Trix Smith, a charter pilot, discovered it during an overflight in 1998. The pilot was flying between Moore and Coober Pedy when he noticed a massive hieroglyph on the ground below. The Merry Man is an artwork of an indigenous Aboriginal man hunting with either a stick or a boomerang. The hieroglyph is located around 60 kilometers outside of Murray Township on a plateau at Completed Springs. Surprisingly, the Merry Man is located just outside the Woomera prohibited area, covering approximately 127,000 square kilometers. The figure stands 2.7 kilometers tall and has a 28-kilometer radius. It is one of the largest geoglyphs on the planet. The Sajama lines are the only ones that are larger than the Merry Man. So far, the origins of this Merry Man hieroglyph are a closely guarded secret known only to the individual who created it. No one has claimed responsibility for this creation, and no eyewitnesses have reported seeing it being produced. Scientists are still baffled as to how these gigantic hieroglyphs were created without being spotted. The Merry Man is also known as Steve Giant, after the infamous explorer John MacDougall Stewart, who sent many anonymous faxes to the media in 1998 as a press release. These were the ones who made the Merry Man famous. The Australian government decommissioned the property after native title claimants in the vicinity threatened legal action. On July 16, 1998, a bizarre glass jar with a satellite image of the marine guy, as well as a note with a US flag and references to Branch Davidian, was discovered in a trough. Some experts believe this masterpiece was created by a Northern Territory artist from Alice Springs. His name was Bardius Goldberg, and he was famed for creating artwork that could be seen from space. He never verified or disputed the theory. The Merry Man is a spectacular structure. However, till this day we can't be certain who created the fascinating Merry Man, but we hope science will be able to close this Australian mystery in the future. Number 9. Venomous cone snails from Australia. The Great Barrier Reef in Queensland is home to around 133 species of venomous cone snails. National Geographic has dubbed them the underwater tank. They feed on fish, mollusks, and worms, with the more dangerous species inflicting catastrophic harm on people. The geography cone, or Canus geographicus, is a large cone snail that grows to be about 120 millimeters long. These are deadly, but not very hostile to people. Cone snails are completely marine organisms that are frequently seen lying under stones, rubble, sand, and sometimes twisted in vegetation along the coast from Western Australia to southern Queensland. These snails use their proboscis, a long, immovable appendage that contains a fatal harpoon laced with approximately 100 different neurotoxins. They hunt at night and use the proboscis to immobilize their victims. The sting initially feels like a bee sting, but things quickly worsen. The stung area experiences severe pain, tingling, and numbness. In severe situations, the person may experience difficulty speaking, double vision, and even respiratory paralysis. A cone snail sting necessitates prompt medical attention. There is currently no antivenom for cone snail poison. Divers and explorers should exercise caution when dealing with these dangerous creatures. It is amazing how inconspicuous these venomous snails look, and yet their sting can be so painful. We certainly hope you will never get in direct contact with this Australian species. Number 8. Giant four-legged kangaroos discovered in Australia. The megafauna of Papua New Guinea prevailed long after humans arrived. A new study reveals that a big kangaroo that formerly roamed the Papua New Guinea highlands on four legs may have existed as recently as 20,000 years ago, long after large-bodied megafauna on mainland Australia became extinct. In order to learn more about Papua New Guinea's interesting natural history, paleontologists from Flinders University and archaeologists and geoscientists from the Australian National University re-examined megafauna bones from the rich Nam rock shelter fossil site in the Chimbu province. The study's new dating methods show that when humans first arrived in the Papua New Guinea's highlands around 60,000 years ago, there were still numerous giant mammal species present, including the extinct thylacine and a marsupial that resembled a panda, named Helithurium tomazettii. Surprisingly, two large extinct kangaroo species, one of which bounded on four legs rather than two, may have survived for an additional 40,000 years in the region. If these megafaunal species did indeed survive in the Papua New Guinea highlands for much longer than their Australian equivalents, then it may have been because people only visited the Nam area infrequently and in low numbers until after 20,000 years ago, says ANU professor of archaeological science Tim Denham, co-lead author in the new study published in the journal Archaeology and Oceania. New Guinea is a forested, mountainous, northern part of the formerly more extensive Australian continent called Sahel, but our knowledge of its faunal and human history is poor compared with that of mainland Australia, says Professor Denham, who initially undertook fieldwork in the Papua New Guinea highlands in 1990. According to Flinders University Paleontology Laboratory co-author Professor Gavin Prydox, the latest Nam study is consistent with similar evidence from Kangaroo Island previously produced by Flinders paleontologists, which also suggests megafaunal kangaroos may have persisted to around 20,000 years ago in some of the continent's less accessible areas. Many broad assumptions regarding megafaunal extinction timescales, he claims, have been more destructive than helpful, although it is often assumed that all of the megafaunal species in Australia and New Guinea became extinct coast to coast by 40,000 years ago. This generalization is not based on very much actual evidence, says Professor Prydox. It is probably more harmful than helpful in resolving exactly what happened to the dozens of large mammals, birds, and reptiles that were living on the continent when people first arrived. It is fascinating to think about these giant and terrifying megafauna animals roaming the Sahel Australian continent alongside the first humans, who are probably responsible for their demise. However, we can certainly be glad those giant four-legged kangaroos are not roaming around in Australia and Papua New Guinea anymore. Number 7. First true millipede discovered, new species with more than 1,000 legs found deep underground in Australia. This week's issue of Scientific Reports features the finding of the first millipede with more than 1,000 legs. Previously, no millipede with more than 750 legs had been discovered. Paul Merrick and colleagues discovered the millipede 60 meters below in a mineral exploration drill hole in Australia's eastern goldfields province. It possesses 1,306 legs, more than any other animal, and is the first member of a new species known as Eumelipes persephone. The millipede gets its name from the Greek prefix eu, the Latin word mill, and the Greek goddess of the underworld, Persephone. According to species relationships, E. Persephone is distantly related to the former record holder for the most legs, Alacme plenipes, a Californian millipede species. According to the scientists, the vast number of segments and legs that have evolved in both species may allow them to generate pushing forces that allow them to pass through tight gaps in the soil environments in which they inhabit. The findings highlight the eastern goldfields province's biodiversity. To reduce the impact of mining on E. Persephone in this region, the authors recommend that efforts be made to conserve its underground habitat. Number 6. The Gympie tree. This plant appears to be an innocuous bush, yet it is a proud and vicious member of the Urticaceae family of nettles. It takes its name from the Australian town of Gympie. The name is derived from the Gubbi Gubbi people's indigenous language. It is indigenous to the rainforests of northeastern Australia. The plant grows predominantly in clearings and along creekways and footpaths. It is a highly poisonous plant with leaves that can cause one of the most agonizing stings on the planet. Unfortunately, there is no antidote for this lethal sting. It's not simply excruciatingly unpleasant, it also has a super long lifespan. People that are stung by this monster may suffer for years. Many people commit suicide in order to escape the intolerable anguish. From a distance, the bush looks like any other plant. But, because of the plant's soft, fuzzy appearance, many people believe it is unobtrusive and even harmless. A single brush with its leaves, on the other hand, will give you immense grief and regret. The discomfort generated by the gimpy tree has been characterized as being electrified while being burned with hot acid at the same time. Nobody knows when the anguish will end once it begins. It may take months or even years for the pain to subside. The shrubs can typically reach a height of 3 meters. The plant's heart-shaped leaves have serrated edges, microscopic filaments on the stem, and the leaves contain the poison that causes agony in your body. Each filament has a small bulb containing the poison. The bulb readily breaks off and becomes trapped in human flesh. To say the least, the anguish it produces is legendary. A.C. Macmillan, a road surveyor from North Queensland, reported his packhorse being stung by the plant in 1866. The poor animal went insane from pain and died after only 2 hours. Ernie Ryder is another unfortunate man who came into contact with the gimpy tree. In 1963, the plant slapped him across the face, arms, and chest. According to Ernie, it seemed like a massive set of hands were attempting to crush his chest. For a few days, the pain was unbearable, and he couldn't do even the most basic tasks, but it gradually improved. But, in any case, the sting lasted about 2 years and hurt every time he took a cold shower. In severe situations, the lymph nodes beneath your arms may bulge and throb terribly for 1 to 24 hours. Researchers discovered that the gimpy poison is heat-resistant and chemically stable, which means that even centuries-old dried-out preserved samples in the museum are still harmful and can sting you. You better hope you never come into contact with this extremely dangerous plant because there is still no antidote that can save you from it. Number 5. First hybrid sharks discovered near Australia. Sharks are generally portrayed in blockbuster films as bloodthirsty villains. But in reality, they are far more fascinating and complicated than they are in popular culture. Scientists believe sharks have been existing for more than 400 million years, long before dinosaurs, based on fossilized teeth and scales. The top predators in the ocean have evolved into over 500 species that vary in size, color, diet, and behavior. Sharks, like rays and skates, belong to the Elasmobranchi subclass of fish. This subclass's skeletons are formed of cartilage rather than bone, and they have 5 to 7 gill slits on each side of their heads, as opposed to most other fish, which only have 1 gill slit on each side, which they utilize to filter oxygen from the water. Whale sharks, the world's largest fish species, can grow to be more than 55 feet long, whereas dwarf lantern sharks are only 8 inches long. Sharks are formidable predators with mouths lined with numerous rows of individual teeth that fall out and grow back on a regular basis. Their teeth vary in size and shape from serrated to triangular like a spear. Sharks can be found in both deep and shallow areas around the world, with some moving long distances to spawn and feed. Some species are solitary, while others congregate in varied degrees. Lemon sharks, for example, have been observed socializing in groups. Scientists are still trying to figure out how long sharks live, and have only investigated a subset of shark species ages. The Greenland shark is the world's longest living animal, living for 272 years. The majority of sharks eat small fish and crustaceans, although some larger species prey on seals, sea lions, and other marine animals. A shark's menu does not include humans, even though shark attacks have increased steadily since 1900 as a result of better monitoring and a growing human population. They are still extremely rare. A beachgoer's chances of being bitten are 1 in 11.5 million. Sharks bite humans out of curiosity, to protect themselves against a perceived threat, or to confuse a human for prey. Sharks have had millions of years of evolution to perfect their predator form, and now sharks are becoming even more specialized, presumably in an attempt to better adapt to ocean temperatures. Researchers have discovered 57 hybrid sharks off the coast of Australia for the first time. These offspring of 2 genetically separate species are a remarkable and previously unknown discovery. Researchers discovered around 60 sharks that were the result of interbreeding between 2 species, common blacktip sharks Carcharhinus limbatus and Australian blacktip sharks Carcharhinus stillstoni. Along a 1,200-mile stretch of Australia's eastern coastline, finding 1 or 2 would have been amazing, but finding 57 proved that it was not a fluke. What prompted this unexpected interbreeding of shark species? These hybrid sharks may have evolved as a result of the need to keep up with rising ocean temperatures. The smaller Australian blacktip shark now inhabits tropical waters in the north, whilst the bigger common blacktip shark prefers subtropical and temperate regions. This could simply be another example of evolution and adaptation of one of the ocean's top predators to climate change. Number 4. Thought to be extinct for 80 years, scientists rediscover a unique insect. Long thought to be extinct on Lord Howe Island's main island, the wood-feeding cockroach was discovered at the base of a lone banyan tree. A biology student at the University of Sydney discovered a gigantic, wingless, wood-eating cockroach that had been thought to be extinct since the 1930s and is only found on Australia's Lord Howe Island. For the first 10 seconds or so, I thought, no, that can't be, said Maxim Adams, an honors student at the University of Sydney's School of Biological Sciences under Professor Nathan Lowe. I raised the first rock beneath this enormous banyan tree, and there it was. We spotted families of them, all beneath this one banyan, said senior scientist Nicholas Carlisle of the NSW Department of Planning and Environment, who was exploring North Bay with Adams. In reality, Maxim and Nathan stayed for the rest of the week, searching under every other banyan in North Bay but finding nothing. The rare Lord Howe Island wood-feeding cockroach, which was once prevalent throughout the archipelago, was thought to have gone extinct until rats arrived in 1918. Over the next few decades, searches turned up dispersed groups of distant cousins on 2 tiny offshore islands. The rediscovered group, however, is genetically separate from them. The survival is fantastic news because it has been more than 80 years since it was last seen, Lord Howe Island Board Chair Atticus Fleming said of the discovery, which was made in July 2022. Lord Howe Island is a truly remarkable area. It is older than the Galapagos Islands and home to 1,600 native invertebrate species, half of which are found nowhere else on the planet. These cockroaches are almost like our very own version of Darwin's finches, separated on little islands over thousands or millions of years, developing their own unique genetics. He added, although they are not adorable and cuddly, cockroaches perform an important part in the island's ecosystem by recycling nutrients, expediting wood degradation, and providing food for other species. As a result, experts have been researching the feasibility of returning them from the offshore islets to the main island. They don't have to anymore. There is still so much to learn, said Professor Lowe, head of the School of Life and Environmental Sciences Molecular Ecology, Evolution, and Phylogenetics Lab. We hope to learn more about how they survive by studying their habitat, behavior, and genetics through additional trials on the island. The wingless cockroach is 20 to 40 millimeters long and has a metallic body that ranges from reddish to black in hue. Hainsthia wood cockroaches, powerful burrowers that reside inside and eat on decaying logs in rainforests and open forests in northern and eastern Australia, are found in 11 different species. They have particular microorganisms in their intestines that aid in the digestion of cellulose and wood. Females give birth to nymphs, who live in families with the adults. However, the distinctive arthropods behave differently and may have been misnamed, despite its common name implying that they are wood-feeding cockroaches that burrow in rotting logs. We now believe they are more of a rock roach, with rocks forming an important component of their habitat, possibly due to their coevolution alongside the ground foraging Lord Howe Island woodin, explained Carlisle of the DPE. The research was led by the University of Sydney in collaboration with the NSW Department of Planning and Environment. It is amazing this fascinating Australian species got rediscovered on Lord Howe Island, after 80 years of being deemed extinct. Number 3. Horizontal falls. These holes, also known as Garangadan by the local indigenous people, are a remarkable natural occurrence located near the coast of Australia's Kimberley region. Sir David Attenborough has described it as Australia's most peculiar natural wonder. He remarked that only a few number of individuals in the globe had witnessed this natural wonder roughly 15 years ago. This ocean phenomena is caused by extremely strong tidal shifts that compress the Kimberley coastline's 2 small breaks. It appears that the ocean has been turned off. This waterfall forms as seawater rushes through 2 short and extremely narrow canyons that are only 300 meters apart. Water builds up on one or both sides of this gap due to changing tide levels of up to 10 meters in height. This results in a 13-foot waterfall. Boats may easily go through this gap, allowing adventurers to witness this incredible event up close. According to researchers, millions of gallons of ocean water are dragged through a small valley. During high tides, around 1 million gallons of water per second pass through the gap. These horizontal falls can also be reversed. The fall flows in the other way as the tide turns. This is why it is regarded as one of Australia's most deadly currents. The seaward chasm is only 70 feet wide. This waterfall is unlike any other on the planet. As a result, it has piqued the interest of naturalists who are awestruck by this one-of-a-kind waterfall. Number 2. Scientists discover largest plant on Earth estimated to be at least 4,500 years old. Scientists in Australia believe they have unearthed the world's largest plant, which they say is at least 4,500 years old. Researchers from the University of Western Australia and Flinders University discovered the old and remarkably durable seagrass that stretches 112 miles or 180 kilometers. A recent study published in Proceedings of the Royal Society B describes the discovery of a single plant, or clone, of the seagrass Posidonia australis in the shallow, sun-drenched seas of Shark Bay World Heritage Area in Western Australia? The answer astounded us. There was only one. Ms. Edgevo stated. That's it, just one plant has spread over 180 kilometers in Shark Bay, making it the largest known plant on Earth. It is 4,500 years old, but how does it do it? Well, we reckon its genes are very well suited to its local, but variable, environment, and it also has subtle genetic differences across its range that help it deal with the local conditions, Dr. Breed says. The existing 200 km2 of ribbonweed meadows appear to have spread from a single, colonizing seedling. The researchers have now set up a series of experiments in Shark Bay to learn more about how this plant survives and thrives in such harsh conditions. Number 1. The awo, rediscovered species. For the last place on our list of terrifying new discoveries in Australia, we are going to show you this short clip of the reaction two explorers made when rediscovering a thought to be extinct species. Joker, what is this? It's awo. Fuck. Isn't it owl? Their reaction is so genuine and wholesome, it is just nice to watch such a discovery in the Australian jungle unveil right in front of our eyes. Scientists all over the world are astounded about this finding. They discovered the awo, or black-naped pheasant pigeon. This species is poorly known, with only 2 specimens collected in 1882 known to science. According to locals, it is still alive and well, but it may have a very limited population. It is thought to be declining due to a reduction in the size of its forest habitat. As a result, it is listed as critically endangered. The black-naped pheasant pigeon is an uncommon bird. Scientists confirmed a sighting in 1882, but only villagers on Ferguson Island in Papua New Guinea have seen the bird known as awo since then. And those sightings were decades ago. It was supposed that the pheasant pigeon had become extinct. However, a team of scientists from the Papua New Guinea National Museum, the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, and the American Bird Conservancy spent a month in the Ferguson Mountains setting up camera traps. The awo bird was revealed to have been filmed on a camera trap 3,200 feet up a ridge 2 days before their intended departure. Jordan Boersma captured the moment he recognized the awo bird in the camera trap film and showed it to Doka Nasson, his coworker. Ornithologists and other wildlife scientists wait all their life for a moment like this. Australia is a fascinating place full of amazing discoveries. Tell us your thoughts about these discoveries and which one surprised you the most in the comments below.